חלק א', דיבר משחיל, ויום השם אליו המלך לך, תוף רשעים ד', עמוד תוף מם תס. And the tarikh is oil tes Ayin, moitzoi tu Shvat, Shin some tes. Good, so we were holding by the biur, albeit it's a slightly complex biur, in the Lashon of the Idrazut, or the Idrabba, that the two nekvei choitem, both Maila and Lamata, have a special function, being as they are Shar HaMoichin, or Share HaMoichin. And we saw that the nekev Hayomin is Miskala Chayin, and the nekev HaSmol is Chayin Dichayin. And so we touched that Chayin and Chayin Dichayin were the union of Chayo in the Gilui HaNefesh. The nekev Hayamin was Chayo, and it was Nimshach Bo'er Yosha Davko Alidei Bo'er Yosha Beseder Mesuda, even though we'll soon see that it's Lamaila Mi Aveda Shal Pitam Hadas. Ve'ilu the nekev HaSmoli in Yone is Gilui Lamaila from a few Gilui Etzem HaMoichin Mamish, and it's Alidei Chayza Davke. In other words, there is a Gilui from that nekev, but it's Mesoira Davke Alidei Chayza Davke. And we saw that the biur was that the nekev HaSmoli is connected with the Etzem Kesher Kutre Iloah, as we quoted earlier in the Hemshech, the Etzem Mishkashas of the Neshama V'guf, the Etzem Kesher, that the Neshama Atzmo can be Nimshech in a Guf and Makush V'guf. V'lamaila, that was the Etzem Kesher of Elakus Mita Hascholas called Seder HaOilamas, but this is Pnimisatik, the Etzem Yeridas Atzmius HaMaitzel, Pnimis HaMaitzel, Ve'even Shel HaToke, Mi Avdolas HaAtzmas, to be Al Chaponim Esha Duration V'chulu, or that Kesher, that HaToke on the part of the Atzmas, so that's called Kutre Iloah, and the nekev HaSmoli was connected with that Iskashret. And we saw that in the Inyan HaMoich Atzmai, or that was the union of Atzmius HaMoichin, we find that in Etzem HaMoich is shaykh to Gilui of Etzem HaNeshama, for example, in Inyan HaLeidah. We saw Alidei Inyan HaLeidah, which comes from the Atzmius HaMoichin, then there's Nimshach the Etzem of the Odom Mamish, and that's the union of Atzmius HaNeshama. However, and that's the Davke Alidei nekev HaSmoli. Ve'ilu nekev HaYomini, so also a union from Ru'usa Deliba. Ru'usa Deliba has a certain shaykhus to the Pnimi of the Nefesh, but it's not Mamish Pnimi. But the union of Pnimi, it's on the table. It's on the table. I'm sorry, that's what we agreed on. That the Atzmiyas of the we saw that the Inyan HaLei, for example, which is Miskalia, they are pair, well, that's got a shaykhus with the Pnimi of the Nefesh. And that's how the Moyach is mashpia to the Leiv, and the Leiv is then poly to call Shaykhin, and it's what Nimshach, the Chayas Pnimi, B'kol HaEvorim. Ve'ilu, we saw the Inyan of the nekev HaYomini is the Inyan of Chayo, Shabnev, Machif Techayo, and that's Nimshach in even from Yosho, because it comes through a beginning of his boninus, as we saw, shayach to the Inin from his boninus. However, it's Ayin l'mayla mi koiches ha'pnimiyim, and that's nimshach in a even from makif, but makif ha'machazik v'korev ela pnimi, and therefore it can be nimshach in an even from yoshar. In other words, it doesn't need a special isoirus, no, it's nimshach. However, we've spoken here about makifim. The etzem hanefesh is b'vadai b'derech makif. That etzem hamoichin, which is the mokeh, for example, of leido, and in that is miskale in the moichin the atzmius haneshoma, that for sure is not b'derech yishalsheles in the normal way. But that's mamish gilui atzmi. Nonetheless, the choitem is a shah el hamoichin davka. And we're going to see in a minute that the Rebbe points out that it's not a shah to the makifin nor davka to the moichin. In other words, that even though we talk about amshoches, which are lechera from the makifim shebenefesh, but the choitem is not el makifim, but even direct, but it's to the inyan hamoichin. And davka al yedei hamoichin nimshochim kol ha'amshoches ha'elyonim ha'elu. Da'ainu, the inyan from rusa de liba shayach el ha'pnimi, or choponim ha'makif el ha'pnimi, the inyan from yechida, l'mashal, brought down in other places, or here we're bringing the dogma from etzem haneshoma l'idei leido, atzmis haneshoma, v'atzmis hamoyach, and the Adam Makimus Acherim, that's connected with Dinim from Yechida, but not here, but it's even Lamaila Mea Yechida, in this Nakuda we're being Mavaya here. All of that is shayach to the Moichin, even though we talk about Amshoches Atzmiyas and Makifim, all that is shayach to the Inin HaMoichin. And this maybe touches a shah that you mentioned earlier in the previous class. So we'll just read a few more lines and then we'll maybe touch on that Nakuda Choponim Bekitzer. So we're holding after the Loshen V'dahainu Mashanim Shachalidei Earl Chayza Davke. That's what we're holding. It's about 2/3 of the way down Omatov Mem Tes. It's a bit of a difficult passage. There's a lot of different Lashonis and Pratim, so we just have to advance gradually and hold our hats and try to be mechavan to the kavanah. Beyuvan ha'inyan l'mayla al pi ma shenisbur li'el perik reish daled b'inyan kutra iloa the Most High kesher shezo b'chinas kesher ha'ayin seif al yedei b'chinas atik shu ha'tochas ha'atzm. We just brought that down now in our chazorah. In other words, that the atzmus have moved all legamri. The beginning of the atzmus to make its first kesher with the whole seder, which is eventually going to lead to Oilamus and to the Bria, well, that's called Pnimis Atik, and that Hatoka and that joining of the atzmas, Vachina Taktoina Sheba Atzmas, with the Reish Kol HaYishtaushos, so that's called Kutra Iloa, the Most High kesher, and that's the Indian from how the atzmas gives itself over for Hatoke to join up with the beginning of the whole Seder Yishtauza, and that's the from Pnimis Atik. U'mashe nimshich mizeh ba'oilames heim b'chinas oiris da'arik k'muvan. That itself, that kutri loa, is not nimshich mamish da'oilames. Well, that's the kesher which makes the connection, as you might say. Obali achrizeh, what can the oilames be? Mekabel is only oiris da'arik, and that of course also goes through different tzimtzumim and hagbolas in sidriyah ishtaushlas, commotions borleo perik reish yud tes. So over there we saw the kesher through atik, over that's the unit from pnimis moichas timor, over the chitzenius of moichas timor, chochmas timor, or that's what's nimshach into the elamas, and the chitzenius of moichas timor, that is shayach to arik. Because the pnimis of moichas timor is really clear to atik. what you might call the Hamshocha Geluya mi Moiches Timor is Moiches Timor is the Moichin of Arich. It's already Chokma to Arich. So the oils which are Nimshach for the sake of the Inyan Oilams is only Chitonius Arich, or Alchoponim, the oils of Arich. Chitonius Akesa. Commotion is Boli or Perek ratio test. Vazel, Masha Nimshach, Miprinus Oil Yoshor. In other words, a direct gilui from Milmaila Lamata, Liyos Peprinus Mokela Lo'elames, that it should be a mokir to the Indian Oelames. And therefore it's Oel Yoshor, which is the Indian of Seder Milmaila Lamata, Yabderecha, Yeridas Vakbolas of Seder Ishtauchelas. But even am Shochava Gilui, yes, was a Beis Oifanim. He said, in that kufa, there are two oifane agiloi. Im amshocha, he bechinas oer pnimi levod, whether the amshocha is purely the oeres of arich, and the oeres which are be'etzem shayochim l'seidish talsheles, v'hu ma shenimshech alidei avodah shal pitam bo, that. It's interesting, everything's kilo got its own mi'ayin, how it is Lamaila, it's how they call it, Midrash Adam made it, Kach made it him, as if the Avedas in an even from a Seder Masuda in the Mensch, and it's Lafi, how they call it, the Earth, which are Mudodim, Lafi Koiches Adam, Lafi Mareches Koiches, so then he's also Megala Lamaila in Yonim, which are Shayochim will be to Kiluim Nailim, or the how they come, with the Seder Masuda in Seder Ishtauchelas. Therefore, that's the Aveda shall pitam v'das. Shezeu akarbonis beklal. That's what we mentioned earlier in the Hemshech, that even though there's a Ayin from Reyach Nichoyach in the Korbanos, a Ayin from Reyach, but we saw that that's the Ayin from Reyach, how it's al dervi a mensch eats things that have a decent smell. They're mechazik the Ayin achila. You know, that's how can you do it? If you eat something that's got a poor smell, it's they say in Yiddish, es estzach nicht. It doesn't eat so well. Is as a reyach, that's kilo mashpia, and how would we call it's my kilo miafsher the Indian equal with the ganze seder moil of achila, and so that's in the korbanos, which means that there's a certain gilui makif, but it's a makif which is nimshach, and inyoni is only l'sayeh l'pnimi. That's in a korbanon. Oi sham shocha hi gilui makif mamish, who alidei rusete liba. The makif there is the makif of chayo, shezeh in aktoiris, as we saw, and that's a makif mamish, but it's a makif which is nimshach also to, as we saw, to lechazik es apnimi, and it's nimshach to literally be male the pnimi and lechazik the pnimi. Albeit that it's an Aveda which is already not Tamva that. The Maki for the Korban, the Reach Nechoyach, the Korban is Be'ike Shai to the Aveda Alpi Tamva that. V'chol Ushanimshuk Mepchinas Nekef Hayomini Bechinas Oer Yosho. All that is Shai to the Inif and Oer Yosho. Liyois, the Gam Liusa de Liba, I Aveda She Beseder v'hadroge, albeit not am v'das mamish, because the Indian of Rusa de Liba is oile into the Indian l'mayla mitam v'das, alidei is bonen as bafloa as Ayin say, and how the Ayin say is meruma mi'oilam as v'chulu. Over Sokolsov, it's a seder v'hadroge, mipnei shegam zeh, who is seder as hanishoma mitzad atzmei. It's true, that is a seder of the nishoma mitzad atzmei, not through the Inyan of the Kelim, and not through the Inyan of the Koiches HaKluim. No, it's a higher Inyan in the Neshama as she is, Kilo not Mugbar the Koiches HaGuf. However, Rak, Shepoeles Benefesh HaTiviyes, Bepchina Shinu Emaus Kanal, which indicates that if it's Poel HaShinu in the Nefesh HaTiviyes, then it's Nimshach, and its Inyan is to be Miskala in the Koiches HaPnimim, and the Inyan HaTivi, Inyan HaTiviyim, like we saw. However, we saw in the earlier chapter that that's poil a shinui in the nefesh hativis, but not a shinui by eventually sapcho memahus lema, but it's how do you call it? It's matish the inyan, the TV is, and allows a certain inyan from cletus, penimis, alakus, benafshe, v'chuli, but not that it's mamish goyim, a inyan from isapcha. That's the inyan of Oyer Yoshua, and it's how even the mile of Rusa Dali being mitzad etzem and Neshama, mitzad atzmoi, nonetheless it's still shaykhs to the koyches pnimim, because it's got to do with the nefesh ha'tiviyus, sof kosa. Ve'ina, says the Rebbe, achoitem hu shara moichin, loy lebchinas makifim de nefesh, ki im lebchinas ha'moichin. Here's an interesting one. The Rebbe says that I want you to know, I mean, we've seen this as we go along, what does he want with that brackets? And not to the bechinas makifim the nefesh, kiim lebechinas hamoichin. When his polio shezeu atzmes hamoichin, eine bechinas moichin stimor. And in that kufa we see two daggers. We see the atzmius of the moichin stimor, or does it mamish the koyach a lot of atzmius and neshama, or we see that it's the inyan from gilui to the liber inyanim atzmius. So I mean, why does the Rebbe say that the whole shara moichin is only to the moichin, not to the makifim sheben nefesh? We just said it was nimshach amaki from Oyer Yoshua. Amaki from Rusa Dali was nimshach. We even hinted that even higher in the etzem and neshama kilo nimshach alidei the choitem, and that's a shar to atzmius and to makifim. It's only a shar, not to the makifim. We should admit that. We have to say. But that the Rebbe is hinting here a very like central Havana in the whole piece. The Ayin that makifim shebenefesh mamish is another inyan. If one goes straight to the makifim, then it's not sharp to this whole inyan that we're talking about here, to the inyan of the odom. He said, Kiro alidei, the nekve achoitim, he comes into these madrigas. Notice you sharp etzem to the moich. And for now we understand that the moich is kilo a central kli to all inyanim. Kilo, there's nothing that moich can't handle, that moich, as you might say, is not mamshi, or not a kli be'ejish derech. We find we had it earlier in the Hemshech, pnimius atik, pnimius abor, he pnimius atik. We find that in etzem pnimius achokma, pnimius atik is shoyed. And he want to talk about that. We're talking about, we call it here atzmis and nefesh. We're going even higher than that in a way. Because we're saying that's a mamish etzem and neshama, and we brought a dugma the inyan later. Well, this is mamish a koyach atzmi. It's not shat to ruchni is cloud. It's almost a koyach gashmi mitzad etzem inyanim. And the Rebbe said all these inyanim are not direct approaches to the makifim, but they are direct Yisodus avoida el hamoichin, as it were, shar hamoichin. There was a debut bezeh, we did say it's here for makifim. All we have to say, that the pshati is that moyach is a gewaldige central muvan in the whole inyan of Chassidus, and that the moyach, well, that is the what you might call the essential link in the mensch between inyonim haki nailim and the taktius of the mensch, how he is b'elam hatacht. And the Eibishter gave a wondrous kli and a wondrous connection called the inyan, which is called moyach, and that moyach literally lives in two worlds. On one hand, and that's what the Alter Rebbe tells us in Tanya, koyach ma. In other words, the mitzad echad, the inyan of Chochmah is a koyach. It's the beginning of the Seidah Masuda of the koyach. Chochmah is the first koyach. Reishis ha'gilui. Mitzad Sheni, it's called Ma. That means that the upper aspect of Chokhmah, what you might call the Pnimius and the Atzmus of Chokhmah, is going under that. It's going in for Ma, in for Mesilas Nefesh, in for Klila Ein Seif Polakuk, in Perek Yud Ches. The Alter Rebbe says that's where the Etzem Nitzutz of the Neshama is found. Etzem Nitzutz of the Neshama finds itself. In other words, that the Pnimius of the Moichen, or the Atzmus of the Moichen, are like Bosi Lakani, they're like a meeting place. The Etzem and Neshama, the Etzem of Indian Velikus, with the Adam, the way he's already shy to be Adam la Matik. You can't say it's two separate entities, it's all one entity with those two inyonim in it. Meaning, once you get into Ma, then you can get into, ultimately into Koyach, but you take what is in the Ma into the Koyach. In other words, you're mamshik from the Ma into the Koyach, and Ali Dezer, the mensch being attacked and becomes pink to say wieder Elyonim, is shaykh mamsh to the hechste and most profound inyonim. And now we have to say that the Inyan HaMoyach is this unbelievable meeting point or merging point between Bli Hagbola and Atzmis of Bli Hagbola. Bis Pnimis Atik. Like he brings in the Agur and Perek Lamed Hey, the Inyan of Chokhmah, Hu Levade Ve'ein Zulose Zuhi Madregas HaChokhmah. What Madrega means is only it's on some level. And after we say that Madrega is Hu Levade Ve'ein Zulose. And after all, sagt the Alter Rebbe, Shamaiti mi, Kasher Shamaiti mi, Mimoy Rizal. That picked as if we state in the Kisvei Arizal, a very similar Lashon. Yeah, that the Rabbeinu Chaim B'Tava heard from the Arizal that Yoyer, the Ha'olam, Pnimis, Atikim, Slavish, Be'abo, Be'chokhmah, Be'tuz, yeah, V'lo Yadaiti Atam, V'lo Yhavinoisye, Divrei Atam, V'lo Yhavinoisye Dvorah, it's a couple of places, yeah. In it irritates it, that's an Indian, what you have to hear that from somebody. It's got to come, but Kabbalah, mi Moirizal, what Moiri, he's up in the Inyanim, and he can give it over to somebody who's a Talmid Masur, you know, somebody wants to be like him, as he can receive again to him, but they're Kabbalah. Kasher Shamaiti mi Moirizal. And from that we see that Chokhmah is this unbelievable point where the highest inyonim halayam mamish mitzad atzmas ain't so join up with the mention. They can make the mention to eventually a kli and a merkava, as you might call it, to the highest possible inyonim, and he becomes mamish botel. Can move in Perikov Gimel, but Domani the chittas have been in and around this inyan. Alidei limud Torah, you know, you become mamish mokusher with the B'derech iyu v'chayeu chad kilo. I feel stakish mamish dem losen, but that's a more. Yeah, mamish ein zach ihu how he is. Yeah, the maitzil ha'elin mamish. So mochu kim lomar that in that amazing Eva called the Moyach, the Eibishter planted this unbelievable ability to be makabel from the highest inyonim atzmim, not kiluim. The highest inyonim atzmim, to make them be misatzim with the mensch, and then eventually go down into a seder from koyach. Yesh lemma that the password, what you might call what gives moichen the how do you call it, the trick, the password. So we gave him from the terrace and a late slof. It's the way it works in these inyonim. It's right? It's the POE is that the Inyan HaBitl. You follow the Inyan HaBitl. That's kilo the password. We have to say that there's some meaning in the choimer of the Moyach Kufa, yeah, and here we have to get a little bit more dachestik to verstehen, you know, what is really the choimer of the Moyach, you know, see the choimer of the Moyach is a normal choimer, or see this is Gob's andere sort. It's an andere sort choimer in Ganzen. So we have to say that the choimer HaMoyach is also not like other Evorim, no, it's mamish a very special type of choimer. And there was more in certain Hemshechim that they ribuya scholars and they ribu shimush of the Moyach in Kedoshim v'chulu, you can mamish be changed. The choimer amad, the etzem choimer becomes different. He even talks about, how do you call it, kmotim in the moyach, and all sorts of amazing things that develop through the usage of the moyach in inyonim kedoshim elyonim. And to a certain extent, any haskola improves the moyach, just like any eva. We have to say that the difference is that when you're Isaac in Inyonim Kedusha, then the moyach reaches its full tafkid that was given by the Eberster, and that choyma becomes a choyma to be mislavish, and that Inyonim Elyonim B'Yesa, that they are mamish gil elakut. I mean, they're not just stam, but they are mamish Inyon elakut. Like as before in the Hemshel Basi Lagani, if we take the Lashon Yechida, then we say that that's a nitzutz koton, boirei, shenim take nitzutz koton nivro, and they sort of link up together. Where do they link up? In Moyach HaChochma. Okay, but we're in Perigrit Chet. That the nitzutz is nimshe v'chochma, machayas kol ha-nefesh, min reish vad raglo. Was for Achayas? Achayas Eloki, an andere sort Chayas. Achayas Ruknias Elokis. That a Yid lives differently. Everything, you can say, leist by him anders, bis takt anders. But everything is different. And that's what we have to say, that the Eibusha made this amazing limb called the Moyach. Well, that's it, literally, you name it, Moyach will get it. In other words, it's a kli to the highest inyonim. Bis, the etzem neshama mamish, or the etzem power of bli hugen the neshama, or that's in our later, ukamuva, in the famous trush of Lag Boima, which really stems back, if I'm not mistaken, it goes back to the Tzom Tzedek or to the Mitzvah. It's a very famous trush. Lahovi Ninian Lag Boima, and it's got this amazing piyur in Reish Nun Daled from the Rebbe Rashab, where he's mefater the whole piyur nifla in the Indian from Lag Boima. And there is masber that the koyach ain't safe, but other mamish koyach ain't safe. Kipshutei is in a later. The Indian later brings the Indian from Kilo Yadain safe through the medium of the other matter. I mean, that's the ability to be moiled b'doimaloi, and that goes on outside kola hadoives, which we hope that the soft kola hadoives won't be soon, but the safe hatoiv of kola hadoives will be very soon. Amen. But after that, there'll be all sorts of other ladies. When it was in Yemois of Mashiach, there'll be a lot of ladies of Neshamas Chadoshes. Maybe a few old Neshamas will still kaparayim, one way or another, but it'll be adequate, it'll be chayve v'kayo. Take from your money. You can mime the dainim from the Bechiras craze, the whole unbelievable bulbul. V'chulu. Emma, Lafisa. Lafisa kommt to Eis. That's what the Rebbe is writing here in these brackets. He said, we're talking here about Shara Moichim. Well, we're talking here about what the Eivusha gave a mensch to do. Direct approach to the Moichin, there may be ways to do that also. Maybe Lamatzogen, Messias Nefesh, Boifen, Yitim Nakla. A mensch just goes, holus bolus into a tremendous Yisraelis and yeah. We're not talking, we're talking about the mensch is doing Avidose. Yeah, first of all, he's got a Rusa Deliver, then he's got another. In other words, he's even Avidose, and he goes through these Nikvei HaChoitim into, where does he go? Into the Moya. If he gets in there, V'oifen HaDorush, V'oifen HaNochem, he can be mamshik everything. Alles te hopen dort. Hier have the from Machiv Techaya, I feel the Machiv Techaya, wo Lamailam is. Everything. In other words, the Moyach is the clear. Therefore, the Rebbe said here in this particular ois, we're not talking about the Makif and the Nefesh. Kiyim lebchinas hamoichin. The shar of the Yomel Kunda is that the Choitim is an amazing thing. The Choitim is the way into that part of man what the Eibusha made in such a way that he and Ayin Seif will get to get a mami. Possibly, the Gnuni. What is that Gnuni? What is it the Moya Shalot? They come to it. It was a pili plus for Amas. And if says the Rebbe, you have this bull Uliel, Shezeu Atzmis HaMoichin. Yeah, we're talking about Atzmis HaMoichin. Even if we're talking about the Gilui B'derech Yoshua, but that's just a kilo achitonius from the Atzmius. And what is that? Hainu B'china Moichin Stimua. And what did we say earlier? Moichin Stimua was the from Chokma da Arich. Oh, but the amazing thing about Moichin Stimua is that dort is Atik and Etzem Atik mitzad Penim Yusei is mislabish mamish in Moichin Stimua, and Moichin Stimua is the Koech Habiru, the Koech of Al Inyon. And the Rebbe learned the Emes Pshat. That's what he said earlier, that the Emes Pshat of Pnimis Abba, who Pnimis Atik, the Emes Pshat is the Kavanah Moichin Stimua. Because the immediate is acted of the Kutcher Elua and the Hatochas Atzmas with the Inyan HaMoich is in the Atzmius or Pnimis HaMoichin. In other words, the Moich how he's already in the Ma part of it V'odek. In other words, how he's immediate Pnimis HaMoich, or Dorit, Atik comes to go and Dort Atik finds itself in that in. That's the Pshat Moiches Timur. That's very interesting. We're going to see here and in the Kuti Torah of Habi Mekemis, we use the word Moiches Timur, and then in a line or two further you call it Chochmes Timur. And sometimes you go back and call it Moiches Timur. To find out what is the emes dachas dik hevdil between Moiches Timur and Chochmes Timur. So maybe we could say that when we use the expression Chochmes Timur, we're talking more how is the natir towards the Shocha B'derech Yoshua and B'derech Makif HaShayach L'Pnim. We call it Chochmes Timur. When we talk about Moiches Timur, then we mean the whole etzem of that Madrege Koilo, the Kli to Atik Mamish. Ulai B'derech Efshe Niton L'Gid Kach. So says the Rebbe, Ubanekev Hayomini Nimshek Mibchinas Chitoni is the Moichin Timur. Well, we just pointed out. Shebibchinas Hamshocha Ne'elemes. Well, that's Hamshocha Ne'elemes. Omnam, we'll soon see what the Pshat. Omnam Nekev Asmoli, the boy Chayin de Chayin, Ubchinas Achmias Moiches Timur. Nishka Chitoni is not Achmias Moiches Timur. And we're going to see that that's not Hamshocha Ne'elemes, no, that's Hamshocha Atzmiyas. So I thought the show wasn't Taish Hamshocha Ne'elemes. This is Mavur and Siddur becoming Mekaymes, that the two words Hamshocha and Ne'elemes are slightly almost contrasting, like, they almost smile one at the other. Hamshocha means something which is derived from a lower madrega to a gilui, and Nela means something that doesn't become lidei gilui. Something Nela means that it's in the mokir and it's not able to come out. So what do we mean by Hamshocha? It's not coming out, but regazeh al chaponim. It was a touch Hamshocha Nela. So we find that there's koiches atzmiyim and then there's koiches giluim. But a Hamshocha from koiches atzmiyim, which hasn't yet come mamish in the koich agoloi, or it's gone out of the Hamshocha, it's gone out of the koiches atzmiyim, or that middle sort of derech, and that middle passageway called Hamshocha, or it's called Hamshocha Ne'elemes. It's already Hamshocha, or legabi the koiches agluim mamish, it's Ne'elam Adayin. In other words, it's already legabi the mokir, it's already Hamshocha. Legabi the mekablim, it's still not even for Ne'elam. And the dugma is there, benefesh, and hamafurs of the dugma, hamafursemis mizeh, is what we call the koich hamaskil. The koich hamaskil is called a hamshocha ne'elemes from the koich hayuli ha'atzmi of chokhmah or of seichel in the etzem hanefesh. The koich hayuli ha'atzmi, or that's mamish kol in the etzem hanefesh, not shai klau to gilu. There's no shai klau. Even if koich hamaskil, well, that's already the mind, that's already the thing that pops you the pop. It throws you in other words, it's the koich hayuli which will present you the how do you call it, the nekudas havroka. Edifer, or that interceptory point which catches already Shocha from the Etzem, so it's coming for your sake, but it's still too Atzmi v'kloli to be called Mishkala in Chochma, Geluya in the Etzem Moyach, but to Chochma, well, that's called Hamshocha Ne'eh Lemes. It's still Ne'elam Legabi the Makabli, but it's Mamish Hamshocha Legabi the Yulia Achmi. It was not a Yulia Achmi anymore, it's only a Yuli. It's only a Yuli Legabi the Makablim of it's not a Yulia Achmi. It doesn't have the complete, what you might call Hafshota and Helem of the Yulium Achmi. That's a Taisham Shochen element. That was at the Rebbe, or that in that we saw Rusa to Liebe, or that's Am Shochen from Chitenius to Moichens Timora, and that's called Ham Shochen Nelemus, and that goes through the Seder of Koyach HaMaskir, and it's later Mishkal in the Moyach and all the. But what is the Gila? The Gila is a union of Hafloas Ayin Seif. How the union of Ayin Seif is Multo Meo Elamas. So even though it comes through a Seder into the union of Moichas Timor, and later into the Gila of Moichas Timor, or it's still in even for Hamshochen Elamas, spend time it's in the union from Koyach HaMaskir, and even when it comes down into Chochma Geluya, it's got a certain Roimamas V'Adora too. So that's that in. Omnam is a Nekev HaSmoli. Yeah, the boy Chayin Dichayin, who Chinas Atzmias Moicheste. That's from Mamish. Yeah, the Indian of Pneumius of Chochma, the Atik. I'm sorry, of Arik. And dort is Miskala, the Atochas Atzmias Mami. Okay, Moishkasa be the Rabashon. Umihai Nukva, meaning the Nukva Smiley, Isaiah, there is Misaira, Venofik, and there goes out, Rucha mi Moichestiv, there goes out a Ruach, literally, mi Moichestiv. Ubebio Ha'idra, the Bio Ha'idra, I'm not sure exactly who the Kavana is. I mean, there's a Bio Ha'idra from the Talmud Arizal, and that appears in the Sefer, I think it's in the Zohar Harakia. So maybe that's what he means. Or maybe there's another sefer which is like a Biur on the Yidra, which has got a more general name, Biur HaYidra. I'm not sure. But anyway, he means in a Mafeirish on the Yidra, Dahainu, Rucha Da'atika Derech Moiches Timur. Atika Mamish meaning Pnimius Atik. How he's Hatochas Atzmas, he's coming Derech Moiches Timur. What Derech means that he's coming because, as it were, Shlei Musa, he's just going through Moiches Timur. In other words, here Moiches Timur is like man via Ma'avir Bilvad to this Atzmias. And we should also be the Rabashon, Rucha Da'atiko Da'atikin. Now here we notice the Loshen is the double Loshen. In other words, that in Atika Gufa, Da'atika Da'atikin. In other words, Atik Sheba Atik, Pnimis Atik Mamish. Der Hatochas Atzmas, the Nofik mi Moiches Timur, lenukve de Choitma. Oh, it's very clear. In other words, that Pnimius Atik Mamish, Atike Diatike. Yeah, that goes through the Madrega of Nofik mi Moiches Timur. Nofik, it goes out. But that would tend to indicate that Gabi Indian there, the Indian from Moiches Timur is like a Ma'avir. You know the whole concept of Ma'avir, where it's just a kli to give the thing over to Moshe Hu B'Shlei Musa, but not that it takes it, but that it's lapses. That's well known in the Indian from Ma'avir. Edafa, said the Rebbe, it's Novik, mi Moiches Timur, lenukle de Choitma. Shom, and over there it appears, in the Idra, Shezehu b'chinas avira di al gabi kluma. Dahainu b'chinas atzmus moiches timur. Now this avira da gav kluma. Kluma means the membrane, literally. How do you call it? The thin membrane over the moyach or around the moyach. On that we said there's an avira between the gota and the membrane around the moyach. There's like how do you call it, a klum. Not krum in Yiddish, a membrane, and on that membrane there's rests literally air, an avira, which is atzmus moichesti ma. We should attach with them. And the Alter Rebbe talks about this in Mekut Torah and Shir Hashirim in a place. The Alter Rebbe brings it down. And he's talking about Das earlier. He says that there's Das Taktein and Das Alien. And Das Taktoin is the Das which is already mispashit in the Midas, and it's miskala alle day koich Das beirida, from the moichin beseder gila koiches. Just the Das has got the mile. It's the Ayin from Pnimius, the Iskashus, the Asmoda, and Hakora in the Ayin. And then he says Das Elyain does it the etzem Iskashus from Ayin safe mamish. Das being lost in Iskashus for Chibur. Or as Ayin from Das Elyain, which is Lamaila from the whole Seder of the Koiches, Lamaila even from Chochma. No, that's the Amitius Ayin Sefer is Lamaila mi a Chochma Lagamri. And he said that's the Inyan of Iskashus Atzmius in the Lakus Lamaila Miko Medida V'Hagbola. That's called Ayin from Das Elyain. Come over in the famous Maimon in Pasha Tils in Torah the Ayin from Das Elyain, and that's what we have. When the spheres are davke in Gimel Kavim, then the Das Elyain can be miskala in the Das. Well, if Das out is in the Gimel Kavim, then it's a kli to be Mikabo Mamish. And then Das is Kilu Machlif, the Ayin from Keser. That same Gilu which is there in the Etzem HaKeser goes over into the spheres through Das. In other words, Das is Mamish Pinimis V'Atmas Ayin Seif in Reif and Ishchabras, and then the Midas has a word out another Yontif altogether, and the Midas are also B'Teilim and Bilti Sofiyim, Bilti Mukbarim in Elikus. That Avira is called Das, and called Das Elyain. Iskashus Atzmi. So the Alter Rebbe must have done the Kuti Torah. But what's got to do with Avira? Why is it called literally Avir, like the Avir between that and the skull bone? Because Avir is Oyer Yud. Avir is Oyer Yud. In other words, that Yud is a Ayin of Kiloi Be'etzem Anakuda from a Ayin Atzmi Ma'id, as one. So the Ayin of an Oyer Yud, that's the Ayin of an Lamaila Michoch. Choch Mezoyer. Aber Yud, that's the Ayin now in Chochma Gufa, Pnimis HaChochma, and in that Gufa, Kilo Lamaila Mi Chochma, Kilo min skin around Chochma, which itself is a Kli to a Gilif and Atzmias Mamish of the Ayin Sefer is beyond all Hagbolas. So Mensch was Zecher to die Madrege, he's Makusha Be'etzem Nafshe, Be'etzem Minyone, in Elikus, all the Inyonim are made by him in a way of not Hagbola. In other words, every in that he does, Gedulim, and I feel in the Gilei Hamidas, Tommy, he's got a Midah, it's not Shaykh van Arabsa. There's a Midah, Kilo Bilti, safe, and dog, which is anyway Keser. In other words, it's not Shaykh that it should go out to Inyon and Bilti Rutsuyim, because it's dog in Etzema, is Kashas in Eitzay. That's a very Madrega Nailis B'Yesa, or it's a Madrega in Avodah. It's a form of coming, the Odom, because who is Magir Le'inyan there. Like we said, we're talking here about Moich, not about Makif. Said the Rebbe comes out of his that from this native Smoli, you get up into Zolchon Madregas, at the Avir, the Gav Kuma, Haim, that's Mamish, Dveikis, in a form of, that's like the Madrega Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Das Elyain, as you do. And that's got to do with Chochmah, that's the Kesher with Oyer Yud, it's got a certain shaykhs to Chochmah, because he was also called Chochmah Moshe Rabbeinu. יש משמעות כזה נתן יוסם פרק מבייס אוהן אין כאן המחמל הערי בזה אמרנו לסד ונקם זה נפי חיין הוא ישגל בחינס אין סייף סטימה דקול סטימן שסוסו ונרם ביתר. In other words, עצם אין סייף der Avira, der Gav Kruma, das ist manchmal they say in Yiddish, das ist erlebt, das ist not ein Safe. And the Das in them is a Iskashus and Bittel Atzmi. Well, that all comes, and that's Mamshik, ain't safe how he is Sosum and Elam Be'etzem. I mean, it's one on the difference between Sosum only Mitzad Makablim and then Sosum Be'etzem. You know the difference, the steamer and then the steamer to call steam in. He said, nonetheless, that's Mishkale. Wie scheiße zu sagen, wie kann sein, dass ein Mensch, so wie das, I talk about Shara Moichin, you know. So the Rebbe, you leave Makifim out of this argument for the time being. Nicht Makifim. We're going here and all, is in your through the, what you might call, the Orthodox, how do you call it, Aliyahs, through the ladder. We're going, jumping here off buildings or something. We're going through the ladder. He says, it's in on the next page. The Bali Tshuva Mashkin lei bechele yatir bechinas koyach oyer choize davke. In other words, how can the mensch get to that? We cannot come and say, I mean, through the moichin, through the shala moichin, come to Iskashus in Atzmas, I say, boiven, steamer, the coal steaming, sosum, mitzal atzmi, mamish, we can say, as amen, so I said, only if the oiven, the Aveda, is also boiven, because it's a dilug, how do you call a sprung, but nonetheless, it's a sprung, which fits into the notebook of Aveda. It's not something just completely out of all, how do you call it, the bounds, you know, and it's just went in, nafsi, gemura, does it, you know, how do you call it, unusual moments and all this type of stuff. Well, here is the inner what the mensch pushes does tshuva. And tshuva is the inner from mashchin lei, becheliati. They literally pull down the Eibishter. Yeah, they pull him down with a much greater strength because it's an inner from Erchaizer. And Erchaizer means that you start literally on your way back, you're fighting back through all the inyanim from the Lamas Stadium in a way that you're not, how do you call it, you're not moide in the Lamas Vehes. You're not moide in the Mator, and you're not mischashiv by him, no, you go, you know, even from take you for Aliyah, to literally in a oven which is shaykh to the koiches because or being even from lidale sure you had to go to beyond the normal seder other madrigas in as even that you don't go out of the madrigas all together, and that's what we find the famous remark at the Alter Rebbe. It's put down in a man from the Rebbe Rashab in Nun Beis, I think is a state it that Rabbi Elazar ben Duldaya, that he did tshuva in such a way that Yotza Nishmosai, Bebechi, well, that's not the Kavanah Alien. I mean, it's Takia a million dika madrega, an unbelievable madrega. For Beregahu, he said about that's a tshuva that he just went out and didn't make it back. He didn't come back. So the Rebbe Rashab writes over there, but Eins Tachlis Anilzo, Tachlis Anilzo, who shall tshuva yeh, talking mit alle miles of tshuva in our even from Amish, mile me medida vak bolle or dalik shu, avul tzorik lovei, yad achreize beseder mesudish l'teror mit. They bring to Torah, and that's the union of emes tshuva. That's the emes tshuva, and that's the seder which is bemes ratzui meito is bora. And he brings out mice. It's amazing. He writes in brackets. I say, given a man, I say, by the Alter Rebbe. I see you guys are already crouching around and yawning and everything. I don't know if you got any curve for a man. But there was, he brings over there that there was once a Balchua that he wasn't a Balchua at that moment. He came to the Alter Rebbe. Somehow they got, I don't know how they got him to the Alter Rebbe. That he'd left his wife and he'd gone and lived with the shiksa. Well, he led me man and said him at the shiksa. And he came to the Alter Rebbe and he asked for tikkun or something. I forget exactly the Lashon dort. So it's written at the Alter Rebbe. It's one on. The Alter Rebbe was neufel nafilas apayim. The Alter Rebbe found like that. It's well known. It's the same with the Gemara taught to Masechet Vav Matziut, Rabbi Eliezer, and they came to tell him that the Chacham had a gezerah negdo. The whole thing he wanted to fall on the filas apayim. Gewollt fallen on the filas, and the Rebbe stand nicht gewollt and somehow or another it didn't come out. I don't think he did actually fall in the Nefilas Apayim. Because if he had have, it could be he might have damaged some of the Chacham, because he was very great, Rabbi Eliezer. Is that when a great tzaddik falls in the Nefilas Apayim, it can cause all sorts of blow-ups. And that's what happened with Moshe Rabbeinu. It's written by Korach, Vayipel Moshe al Pono. Very state, by Korach stated. Yeah, Vayipel Moshe, the Aaron al Pneihem, and then later it's written, Vayipel Moshe al Pono. Vayim al Korach al Koladosik. And so it's put down as for him, that Nefilas Apayim on the part of Moshe, that's what blew them. That's what he was neufel al Pono. Auch upon him, certainly the Alter Rebbe fell Nefilas Apayim, and then he lifted up his head, the Alter Rebbe, and he said something about geht die Gesundheit and es wird gut sein or something. A very sort of strange remark. It's going to be good or something like that. And so they heard that at that point, at that moment, later on it became clear that the whole house where they lived, at this shiksha with the kinder, the whole thing went up in fire. And he heard that as he realized that the Alter Rebbe had achieved this through the Nefilas Apayim. So that's he did tshuva. V'nasu bal tshuva gomo. V'achreize yotze memenu mishpachas Yireim or something like that. He had a family. From his former wife. I don't know if he escaped or think to say that. But anyway, he became a Yirei Shamayim and yotze memenu mishpachas Yireim. Said the Rebbe over there, the Rebbe Rashab, he said, that's the way it really should be. And he said, Mashenki, but Rebbe wasn't been through that. It wasn't that way, and never wasn't really, as I say that. I mean, okay. So he compares this shit with Rebbe wasn't connection to that's a very amazing thing, the whole thing. So what Peter said that the ultimate tachlis of the Avodas HaTshuva is that it has to be connected with Torah. If I'm not mistaken, miyad achreza, not years afterwards, you give yourself time to calm down and come back. No, miyad achreza, there has to be a veda musuderas in Torah or mitzvah. When we say musuderas, we don't mean barabatis. I mean, obviously, a man's been through a zamin in it. His whole seder aveda will be b'chayas nifla. Of kolim mechayav avachopon, it's got to be a inif. How do you call it? Amshach esoiris, or be it nailim, or b'kelim. Davke, Keli Matera Mitzvah. That's the whole point of the whole thing. Is the whole amazing message here is that tshuva is tshuva is an avodas order, and therefore even though mamish makir v'stima the kol stimin, or we're taking to have stima the kol stimin, then the shara moichin. It's all going to come into a seder masuda mitzad avodas order, and it's all keel based on avodas order. It's going to come and be mishkala tzurich in avodas order. It's manid that in the etzem gilu of tshuva itself, Kamayim Razal, the mochim shabali tshuva indim tzadikim gemurim einem yechelim lamoi. The tzadikim gemurim ba'aveda shalahem gam b'chinas ava b'tanugim. Even the highest gilu of ava mitzad the koiches of Oyer Yosho, is you can't come einem yechelim lamoid. It's just they're not able to. It's not shayach. Even with Ava B'Tanugim, higher than Ava B'Tanugim we can't get. I mean, that's the highest koyach. It's also mitzad chokma, mitzad bittul, otzim nelakus, or be'tzi'inim from Oyer Yosho. The gambrin zoinek atzmi ena magia ba'atzmus hanefesh k'moi hatzar v'amariros mea eipach. In other words, dafke because tshuva, even from mariros and tzar, then you can't match that. Because the greatest oineg doesn't reach as deep as the greatest tzar. The inyan from tzar reaches much greater. That's the inyan from tzar and mariros ala eipach. K'moi shekosav min ha-meitza korosi, min ha-meitza korosi. Min ha-meitza v'hadeichek dafke. Maar als je tzarli meid me arichu melikus, oberfat bechatoim v'avenet, ze dafke me betchen me kudas nafje me gila meilen pnir aan te zijn. Ain't safe. No, where are you guys? So we got to say, Ein Lachanami, Min HaMeitzer Karasi. Ahuz mit Anonim B'Merchav. Jeden have been through it, and jeden werden aber das Min HaMeitzer Karasi. I want to say, werden nachher, ich hasse verlieren. Jeden have already been through this. Ja, jetzt darf man halten bei die Anonim B'Merchav. Ja. Mamisch beruhige sehr. Was es halt jetzt bei Harikot, מצבים בלתי רגילים ומשונים בייסר ובייסר. Never been a solche משונתike Sachen, משונתike עניונים. Jeden say Min HaMeitzer Karasi ko anonim b'merchav. So here we're talking about the Meile of Min HaMeitzer, and the Etz Min HaMeitzer that itself is Megale, the Atzmos and Pnimis itself, but that would appear that that's the Inyan von Atzmos and Pnimis, which is mitzad the dilug of the tshuva itself, because he reaches that level through the dilug, and therefore that level, as it were, is Mizkale b'avidosai. Or b'aneni b'merchav kol is even higher than that it would appear. Anoni b'merchav kol is mamish the merchav ha'atzmi, which comes li'achrei what you already reached it through your avodah. In other words, why yesh leim hadin if an anoni b'merchav kol is a level which is not even be'erach, even to your Min HaMeitzer Karasi and the kol that you reach al yedei. Because that's like what you reach al yedei avidoscha. But the anoni is noch a Ayin, noch a hecher Ayin. You guys, I'm trying to persuade you that right now we're holding by an Ayin which is a little bit further along the road, as you might say. I mean, this is unbelievable stuff here. I mean, you see what's written there. But yesh leima, that's still where he comes through the Min HaMeitzer. He gets up into Atzmos Ein Seif. Kamel Derech Moshe, Ledalik Chafira Gedelim, jumps over a tremendous group. שצריך להיות בכוח עצמוס הנפש של דווקא כאשר בורא מן המובס רחמון נפלא וכמו מלחמה כהגבנה שעוז מסגל לכוח עצמוס הנפש לדלג וכמו כן מן HaMeitzer הגודל זה nicht gut מהחטא ואופן זה דווקא אשר מביא ומגלה עצם הנשמה מבחינת הזוז כל עצמוס וזהו דווקא שמגיע בפנימיס ועצמוס אין כאשר Min HaMeitzer gemeint או Oz Anoni b'merchav Yudkei b'chinas merchav ha'atzmi de'ein. That's what I wanted to read. But yesh ledachtik and yesh leharer v'lachshev. I'll leave you with it. The Melt Shem Metachten bis to come to Ketayt. Whether that Anoni b'merchav is like a further shleimus even over what he reached without jumping over there. If the Dalig Shir is like getting up there. You notice he uses the expression that the Anoni b'merchav is a level b'merchav ha'atzmi de'ein seiv. Ma she'im privi kol pnimis v'atzmi is ein seiv. Over here he says the merchav ha'atzmi de'ein seiv. We are taking the audacity to teach that that's an even more perfect madrega, that's an even more famous madrega. And that's in even Anoni. That's the Abish already answers. That's his part of it. And so that's what we're holding, and that's what we're asking. Now, Rabbeinu Shalom, the Min HaMeitzer, there's been a lot of it, and there's been so much of it. And there's been, so much. Min HaMeitzer, B'chol Einon, B'chol Aderes, me Chol Beis Amikdash of Adkar. Jetzt, wir werden der Anoni b'merchav ha'atzmi mamish, and we're teaching that means who knows what. And that's what we're demanding, and that's what we're asking for. And my mother, this whole business, all this mishugan and bechiras and all the mices and all this and all the yonim, noch all krichen with all these creeps. We should have Malkeinu Mashiachenu as well. What should I say that? Everybody knows it's just going to be a terrible. Anyway, it's just going to be a terrible creep, the whole thing. I mean, whoever gets in it's going to be an unbelievable headache. It's Ayin, Anoni b'merchav kol. It's Tu Shvat. Tu Shvat darf sein Freilich, all the mates are sorry who was feisted was. So I'm just going to leave you with a thing. I mean, you guys know all about it anyway, but I've got to catch Bocher here. But I'll just tell you that last night I had to look up something in the Shloah Kodesh. I had to look up something in this week's Parsha in the Shloah Kodesh. In the Chelik Teresh B'Ksav, the Parshas. So I opened up at last week's Parsha B'Shalom. I just happened to open up a Raketa, and I was told about it once before, but I wasn't sure where it was written. But I found it stated in the Shloah Kodesh, which stated that the Shira by Kriyas Yamsuf was only after by Yaminu B'Hashem Moshe Avdoi, and they came to the Shleimus Emunah in the Eiverstein in Moshe Rabbeinu, or after everything Kriyas Yamsuf and reaching the Shleimus Emunah, Matali, everything was already Kilo Mushlam, all the Yoshim. Then they sang the Shira. He says that the Yosid Lovei, you're not going to be an Azar, Tachis HaShleimus, in all the Inoni Amunah and all the that they're going to sing the Shira Od Lifnei, that the Shira, Hashem Shir Chodosh, which is going to be Rosh Zocha, before the Gura, you're not going to start singing it even before the Gura. After the Gura, we're not even singing as Shiras, but they'll be all nickel in the Shir. I state that in the, and then he says even more, listen to this one. Then he says, and the Noshim Tzadkoni is, Shehoyu Beis Aduya, they even knew that secret, even Yemo. And they had all their tupim, and they had all this, they had them all ready. And they took them out with them, because they knew they were going to have tupim, there was going to be a grace of Shir, and they were ready all to sing the Shir. But the men out the men, you can't, women can't get in Shrei and Shirim, only if the men started. The men started, and Miriam could go out there in some corner and say, over they took them, the tupim, they took them, they were ready with the tupim long before they had them there, and they came nearly Yosef, and so I think that the Shloah, Philip Shloah, and that's what you see, everything the Rebbe does, he has the most unbelievable quality. Yeah, and that was the Rebbe said the women should have the tufim, they should have them ready. And this lady went past and she gave the Rebbe a dove. You know, it was written on it, and the Rebbe took it. Oh, yeah, the Rebbe took it over for good to go. Yeah. I've seen the video. Well, so, I don't want to sort of blow I think the last night I was so in this poor for that, and my Rebbe came in from work, and I showed her, I said, that's what they state. So she said, oh, you think I'm a Batlanis? I've got two. She said, I got two tupim. So I said, well, see it? So she said, well, one's on the wall. Yeah, I know that. The one's hanging on the wall. She said, oh, but that gets a bit dusty, and it's on the wall, it's hanging on the wall. So I got another one in my wardrobe, said, wrapped in a nice, no dust gets on that, and it's all fresh. And that's, she said, that I'm keeping specially.
On the Shabbos, they had 300
So, you see, the Noshim Tzadkoni, the Rebbe told the women they should have the tufim ready. And they stated the Shloah. So, I mean, people know about it. It's not a Kiddush. I mean, people here in Kochbad know about that Shloah, I'm sure they do. But we need somebody to just make up a song, a new shir. This is the Shir Chadash. This is the Shir Chadash before the Geulah. The Alter Rebbe said that the Shloah was his Rebbe before the Maggid Mezuzah. He said, even though he didn't know the Shloah, but he said it was his Rebbe. I mean, I'm just an old crutch. There's people who talk about it, they know about it for sure. I just happen to find what I started off with.
Motzei Shabbos is 300 women.
Oh yeah, and they danced with Tufik. Yeah. My daughter was there. She told me. I forgot to mention that she was coming on my mind. It was a big Malawi market. Yeah, and they took the Tufik.
Some of the women from Kfar Chabad, they ran away because they thought the place was going to fall down. There was so much dancing and noise.
What do you tell me? Well,
and such a...
Thanks.
The Rebbe's Madgish that the whole union of Yud Shvat is connected to two ladies, two Rebbetzins. Yeah?
Huh? The whole